Last Saturday, the All Progressive Congress held its World Congresses in 36 states of the Federation at the Federal Capital Territory. However, not only were the Congresses marred by protests, parallel elections, and violence, and a cloud of uncertainty hovered around their validity. And this stems from the minority judgment of the Supreme Court on the Ondo State governorship election, which punctured holes in the legality of the actions. Governor Buni of Yobe State, who has doubled as the chairman of the National Caretaker Committee of the APC since June last year. In a split judgment of 4-3, the Supreme Court last week upheld the election of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State because the People's Democratic Party and its governorship candidate in October 10, 2020 election, Eyitayo Jegede, failed to join Buni in the suit. And even though the issues revolved around him, but in dissenting minority verdict, Justice Mary Odili of the Supreme Court ruled in Jegede's favor on the grounds that the nomination of Akeredolu, which was signed by Buni, was not valid under Section 183 of the 1999 Constitution. To discuss the validity or otherwise of the World Congresses conducted over the weekend by the APC, we are now being joined by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, a former National Legal Advisor of the party, Mr. Babatunde Ogala. Good morning and welcome to the program, sir. I mean, and good to have you once again, sir. What's the validity, of the World Congresses held over the weekend? In fact, there's been so much discrepancy that some, voices in the APC are saying probably it might be cancelled. It was in the dailies this morning. And we keep going back to that 183 of the 1999 Constitution, Section 183. So what is the hard truth the APC needs to understand at a point in time like this? Let me put it that way.
Thank you. I'm sure you might have seen and read my opinion. I've written two in the last couple of days since the Supreme Court decision. And in the second one, which I'll title My Further Thoughts, I had left completely the issue of the judgment, but look at the implications thereof on the legality and validity of the concept of caretaker committee in the management of political parties. And in so doing, beyond what Section 183 says, and of course the Article 17 of our party constitution, on whether a governor or somebody holding executive position can also hold party office, which was the contention in the judgment. But here I have gone beyond the judgment, and I've tried to look at what Section 221, 222, and 223 of the Constitution says. Because Section 221 and 222 are the sections that even create the concept of political parties in governance in this country. And 223, to be specific, had gone ahead to say the parties shall be led by elected officials or by persons that the parties shall guarantee the system, and they should have their conventions where officials shall be elected periodically and not exceeding between a 4 years interval. Perhaps that is what gave rise to the parties in their constitution, which Section 223 has mandated them to do, to also bring these provisions into the constitution. What then does that tell us? That section is simply suggesting that democratically elected officials shall be responsible for management of political parties. What then is the implication of that? We juxtapose it with Section 7 of the Constitution, which creates the system of local government administration in the country. Section 7 is the one that guarantees that. And clearly, it also states that those parties, there shall be a system of democratically elected local government administration. It might be argued to say Section 223 has maybe given different interpretations and has not been put to a judicial scrutiny or test. But can we then shut our eyes to a similar provision in Section 7, which has been put through the judicial crucible not once but twice? Now, where was it put to test? In the case of Governor of Ekiti State versus Olubunmi, I think, where the governor had dissolved the elected local government of Ekiti State when he came into office. Ostensibly, the elections had been held by the erstwhile governor, and the current governor had dissolved them and set up caretaker and transitional committees. Olubunmi and his colleagues went to court, and the case went up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court was unequivocal that you cannot have anything short of democratically elected local government officers. So return these persons back to office. And they were so returned. Then, in Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde also did the same thing. And when he did that, the Attorney General of the Federation, my brother Abubakar Malami SAN, cautioned him that you cannot dissolve the elected local government. That it would be in contravention of Section 7 of the Constitution. The Oyo State governor did not heed the advice. Algon, Oyo State, went to court. And the Supreme Court ruled not only that you should go and pay them their salaries, that you have no powers to circumvent what is clearly a constitutional provision that elected local government officials cannot be removed and cannot be replaced by caretaker committees. The question then arises, juxtapose this with Section 223 that are almost on all fours. Do we need to wait until the court so pronounces and declares whatever we are doing illegal? Can we not, as a party, and should we not, heed the advice of our own? The Attorney General of the Federation is our own. He advised Oyo State did not heed his advice until the Supreme Court told the Oyo governor, what you are doing is null and void, back to status quo. So can we not go and borrow that advice of our own member in our own government, the Attorney General of the Federation, and also realize, tell ourselves, borrow ourselves sense to realize that going in contravention of Section 223 is also null and void, and go and do the right thing. That is my admonition to my party. We need not wait until we go to court and be embarrassed. I mean, look at what we have gone through in the Akeredolu matter. 4-3, in my first admonition, I said the Supreme Court gave us a hint and a wink. You know, the minority judgment was a hint, and the majority judgment was the wink. The majority judgment had not said, they hint their decision on just technicalities, the issue of joinder. While the other minority went into the details, and in fact, in the words of Justice Mary Odili, who presided, he described our party as reckless and doubting disrespect for our own constitution. I then asked the question, what if Buni had been joined? What may have happened? The argument will be that he enjoys immunity by virtue of Section 308. Rightfully so. And that has been affirmed by the Supreme Court in a plethora of authorities, and especially in the case of Tinubu and IMB. However, with the same Supreme Court now saying you should have joined a sitting governor, was the court not conscious of Section 308? That is why I call it a hint. In Anambra, I read in the papers, I think yesterday, that in the case filed by Dr. George Mogalu, contesting the nomination of Dr. Andy Oba as the APC gubernatorial candidate, he had now brought an amendment seeking to join May Buni. I mean, that would ostensibly taking a hint from the decision of the majority in Akeredolu's case. Now we've gone into congresses. How much of such litigations should we need to wait for? At great cost to the party, great strain to members, a lot of disaffection. So why would our party not just sit down and let us review this? Unfortunately, after I wrote on Friday, and I've written again, of course, the party has not consulted me. So I need to make my voice to be heard.
Okay.
So that it is not said that we did not speak up when we thought we saw a few things going wrong. As of today, nobody has contacted me, but I'm sure everybody is aware of the position I've canvassed.
But Mr. Ogala, can I ask you?
We just need to do it right.
Okay. Can I ask you, because you mentioned some members of the party and taking the party's advice, and you singled out the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria and a member of your party. But he has also been reacting to this judgment, and he says the judgment has no bearing on the powers and constitution of the Caretaker Committee led by Governor Buni. And he says all these interpretations are just speculative and they should be discountenanced. Let me ask you, what is fueling these divergent opinions? What is it that you see that they don't?
You see, I have advanced the arguments beyond where Buni stopped. If you recall, the Attorney General had reacted to our brother, Festus Keyamo, also a member of the cabinet, who had even proposed some way out, including that the BOT of the party can convene as well as the NEC. But in my own position, I said, there is no BOT because it was never constituted, so it cannot convene. By a NEC decision, even the NEC itself had been dissolved or purportedly dissolved. But however, the advice I have proposed now, I have now tried to advance the arguments to even talk about the legality of the concept of caretaker committees in political party management in the light of the provisions of Section 223 of the Constitution. And that is why I said Section 223 could be likened to almost be on all fours with Section 7, on which the courts have ruled that you cannot, because Section 7 provides for democratically elected local governments. Section 223 provides for elected party officials. And the court had ruled on Section 227. Can we borrow from that? And in so borrowing from that, can we not heed the advice? Because like I said, the Attorney General of the Federation advised Oyo State government. Oyo State did not heed this advice. Then the matter went to court, and the Supreme Court, the apex courts in the country, aligned with the position of the Attorney General of the Federation. Now, juxtapose this with our own matter. Like I said, Section 7 and 223 are similar. So what I'm saying is, should we not heed this advice? At this point, for me, it is not about ego, it is not about grandstanding, it's about the future of our party. It's about saving this party. And this is not a time for anybody to be egoistic. This is not the time. We need to find a common solution. I mean, a party of millions of people, there will be divergent views, interests, and all that. But we must have a common ground. Because the party we talk about today, if it does not survive, we all will go down as members of the political class belonging to that party with it. So it's about saving this party, and that is why I am proposing solutions. Right. Yes, you might say the NWC members of which I was one, when we're dissolved, in the interest of the party, everybody made that sacrifice. But I also have now realized that we may have been wrong. Is it not honorable to say, oh, we were wrong?
Well, BK.
Let us go back. I mean, I was reading yesterday in the papers where the Attorney General of Imo State was recalled back to office because they say he was erroneously included in them among those that were dissolved. So if we also made an error, what does it take? Recall the legal body, the NWC. Give a mandate. Recall the NEC, because we cannot purportedly say we want to justify an illegality. You cannot legalize it.
Well, BK,
recall NEC, which you have dissolved, the state structures, and then, let me finish, Ruben, and then simply give them a mandate. Give us a convention in 3 months and get out of the place. Simple. I don't think that is too much to do.
Okay, like except that we're trying to manage time. We're trying to manage time.
Moved on, including me. But if that is the sacrifice we need to make, we just have to do it.
Okay, BK, I need to come in here because we need to manage time carefully. Yeah, very quickly. I mean, you've made a number of recommendations. One, you are saying that the dissolved National Working Committee of the party should be reinstated. How practicable would that be? That's one point. The second point, you have argued...
not just the National Working Committee, all structures of the party.
Elected structures.
Don't forget, elected structures from the world congresses. I mean, that is where we are. To the state, they are caretaker today. Yeah. To the zonal.
No, I get your argument. Now, one, do you think that that is practicable, considering the fact that it will appear that the party itself is divided on these particular issues that you have raised, with regard to the Supreme Court judgment, with regard to Section 223, and even with regard to Section 7 of the Constitution. Now, I mean, could you help us try to understand what the contending forces are within the APC? Because clearly what we get is the impression that the party is divided. So what are the tendencies that are at war? Now, in the papers today, we have front page of This Day and some other papers that the APC is considering annulling last week's World Congresses because in the opinion of certain members of the APC, the party needs to get itself out of a legal ditch, which seems to be your own opinion. Is there an emerging consensus within the party around that proposal?
Well, I pray it is so. I say that if, like you have just said, what was reported in the newspapers are to be believed, it would appear we are looking in that direction. I think in one headline today, I saw that APC is contracting. I mean, we are available, whether you like it or not. And that is why I find some of these things highly interesting. The APC has had only 2 persons who had occupied the office of National Legal Advisor. Both senior advocates, my dear brother. Who else other than those 2 people can best even advise on what they have seen have been wrong in that constitution they had operated for a cumulative 6 years or thereabout? You see, we are available. We are members of this party. And let nobody just imagine, some of us it's not about power play for some of us. It is not. There will always be contending forces and parties in any organization. In NBA, there are contending forces. I'm sure even within Arise Television, there will be contending forces. And so is it in any organization where you have more than 2-3 people. There will be various interests. But those various interests in 2013 through 2014 had converged to form this party. And those forces have run through 2 election cycles and gotten power for this party. So whatever those forces, we must bury a lot of this. We must bury our ego. We must stop grandstanding and look at saving first the APC. If there is no APC, can we even be talking about power? Can we even be talking about elections? Can we even be talking about congresses? Let us first save the party. And let us not make that mistake that the Supreme Court and the law itself is dynamic. Time was when you thought the court would not interfere in internal affairs of the party. The Supreme Court has moved from that. In the case of Ibrahim Omar and APC, our APC versus Ibrahim Omar, which led, where the Supreme Court ruled and led to us not having candidates in Rivers State, is something to learn from. What led to that was our internal affair and our party issue, our constitution, that it was alleged was breached in putting together congresses, same congresses in Rivers State. Because what happened in Rivers was the issue of Congress, where the Supreme Court said those who constituted the Congress were not legally in office, and as such, the electoral college that came there from, that produced our candidates, had no, and as such, we had no primaries. In Zamfara, it was internal affairs of the party, where we won elections from governorship to the last seat in the last of us, House of Assembly. And behold, because of our internal contradictions, and upon the suit of Senator Marafa and APC, we lost everything. Are we going to continue like that? Time was when you will say, oh, it's the parties you vote for. Now the candidates have become issues. In the past, it was said that it was the parties in Amechi and INEC. Have we not moved away from that? In Bayelsa, we clearly won an election. But because of a stain, one of the candidates, or the deputy governorship candidate, was tainted. Behold, we lost that on the eve, just a night before the inauguration of the governor. We were told, sorry, because you have a contaminated deputy, everything. Now it was no longer by the party. We argued strenuously that, okay, perhaps we should replace, relying on the situation in Bauchi, in the case of Muazu. Was it Muazu or Yuguda back then, where they allowed PDP? But the Supreme Court has moved away from that. So that is why I'm saying the law is dynamic. I've now come to 3 instances. And like I said in Ondo, 4-3 is a cliffhanger. It just needed one person in a split second and to take a decision one way or the other, and it could have gone either way. And I sympathize with the Supreme Court justices because I know they would have had conferences. And for 3 to say, obstinate to say, no, we don't agree, and 4 say we take this position. Usually, more often than not, we have unanimous decision. That is why I've called it in my write-ups a cliffhanger. That's why I said we got a hint and a wink. Do we want a second test?
When I talked about contending forces, hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? When I talked about contending forces, this is where I was going. I wanted to know whether this is about 2023 and the zoning of the presidency within the APC. Because if you look at the responses, there is a geographical bent to it. There is an internal party politics, to it. So is this North versus South, or, clash of interest with regard to 2023 and the zoning of the presidency?
Well, Ruben, I wouldn't know that, and I would not say it is so. Perhaps you know what I don't know. For me, as I understand it, it's about understanding. Like I've also said, there will always be contending forces in any organization where there are more than 2-3 people. There will always be several different interests, different understanding, appreciation, and what have you of issues. As to whether it is North and South, I would categorically say I do not see it as such. I honestly do not. 2023 would always be in focus. It will always be in contention. In fact, I can tell you for free, you are talking 2023. I'm sure some people are already thinking 2027 and 2031. So there will always be these interests. There will always be contending issues. There will always be, you know, various anticipation planning and what have you. So certainly in politics, politics, like you also know, is like a game of chess where everybody is trying to outposition the other. Like I'd already said, even in the Union of Journalists, there are contending forces. In the Nigerian Bar Association, there are contending forces. Even in my estate association, there are contending forces. I'm sure, Ruben, even amongst you, in those good old days of the glamour boys, there were also contending forces. So
thanks for reminding me. I used to be a glamour boy.
If I just might add, even amongst you in Alale corporate, there will be contending forces. So it's just a natural thing about life that there will always be. I'm not even too sure between the three of you on the morning show today, there are no contending forces.
I categorically say there are no contending forces.
Are you sure this one? There are contending forces between you and I.
Well, while two of you are in black outfits, Ruben chose grey. So maybe he's trying to make a point with that too. And the colors of the ties even speak volumes, you know.
Anyway, I think we should wrap it up here. Thank you very much, Ondo Ogala, SAN, for joining us on the morning show. Thank you very much indeed.